Hello again, everyone, and thanks so much for joining us for this Thursday's edition of Alaska Weather on the 29th day of July, 2021. I'm David Percy, a meteorologist with the National Weather Service, and I'll be hosting today's show. Starting out, first graphic here is hazardous weather. There are no watches, warnings, or advisories around the state for the next 24 hours or so. High surf advisories ended earlier today. We're out for the Yukon, Kuskokwim Delta coast, or the Bering Strait coast, Seward Peninsula. Winds have come down and seas come down as well. As you can see, still moisture, kind of a broken up, weakening front, but you can see enhanced areas in that southwest flow. Areas of clouds enhanced, kind of waves riding the frontal boundary northeastward there. Bringing still some pretty good rainfall amounts into the area. Lighter amounts up over the northwest interior, up in this area there, as some rain actually got out to the Arctic coast, central Arctic coast around Point Barrow, or Utagavik, I believe it's pronounced, had about 0.04 of an inch in the last 12 hours. Otherwise, the heavier rain kind of shifted inland from where it was yesterday, although it lightened up considerably over the eastern interior, the lingering showers today. But Koyukuk, Norton Sound, right about in that area where the cursor is, they picked up about 3/4 of an inch of rain in the last 24 hours. Russian Mission had 2/3 of an inch of rainfall. And Anvik, 1/2 an inch. And then Bethel, Kaltag, Ambler, and Bettles all had over 1/2 an inch of precipitation. It's kind of a widespread area of soaking rains occurring here, continuing again for another day. And it's going to stay wet for the next couple of days, and actually another round of heavier rain will move into the northwest and the southern slopes of the western Alaska Range on Saturday or Friday evening. Anyway, also moderate rainfall extended back into the Pribilofs along that frontal boundary, with St. George Island picking up 3/4 of an inch of precipitation as well, but it really tapered off in toward the central Aleutian areas there, with Adak not getting anything. Atka may have had some light precipitation, but nothing significant there, just a weak trailing edge. And actually, east of the frontal boundary there, Unalaska, temperatures pushing up near 70 degrees today with a little bit of sunshine and the warm air aloft. Otherwise, we got clouds, low clouds and fog, especially earlier today with drizzle. IFR flying conditions, Cook Inlet, that's improved this afternoon to marginal VFR. And otherwise, sunshine, some showers also moving into the southern panhandle, with the disturbance spinning some moisture up that's well south of the Queen Charlotte. You can see a little bit of cloudiness coming up there. Haida, Prince of Wales Island, had 1/1100 of an inch of precipitation. And Delta Junction as well, with some lingering showers over the eastern Alaska Range, leftover moisture from yesterday. They had about 1100 of an inch of precipitation as well. And that was a 12-hour amount. Otherwise, some light scattered shower activity up around Eagle, being triggered by the warmer temperatures up into the lower 70s. Eagle had 73 at mid-afternoon. Fairbanks at about 70, lower 70s Northway and Tok, 73 also at Chitina there in Copper River Basin. Actually 74 degrees at Chitina. And the warm spot was down at Stewart, southern panhandle, 75 degrees, with temperatures upper 60s, lower 70s, in spite of the cloudiness and scattered showers over the southern panhandle, with 70s up around Juneau and to Haines, seeing lower 70s as well. Otherwise, some light rain, fog, and drizzle sliding up to the western Alaska Peninsula, mostly on the south side. North side there, you can see some clearing and a little bit of sunshine. High pressure, western Aleutians, light winds with some clearing there as well. And for tonight, we'll see that front edges its way eastward there, and southwest flow again surges of moisture. Another wave there coming up, just crossing the eastern Aleutians there. Not very strong, but enough to enhance the rainfall amounts, rate, and intensity there as those ride northeastward in the upper flow aloft. That's slowly edging eastward, but not very fast. System dropping down to the Russian Far East there in the northwest Bering Sea, kind of holding the flow in a quasi-stationary status quo. So the front not really making much eastward progress, so it's going to stay cloudy and wet, at least through tonight and into tomorrow, and probably tomorrow night as well for the western central interior. Drying out those Seward Peninsula, St. Lawrence Island, low clouds, fog, light winds. And periods of rain, fog, and drizzle, Bristol Bay into Togiak Bay, Dillingham. Some of that spills into the Kuskokwim Valley, but it'll be light, and that'll extend on up to the Kobuk, Koyukuk, Noatak Valleys, western, central, north slope. Eastern Arctic coast should stay dry. Panhandle, lingering showers tonight, and variably cloudy for the North Gulf Coast as well, and mostly cloudy over the eastern interior to Kodiak Island. Tomorrow's forecast, sunny, or mostly sunny for the Panhandle. Maybe got a few too many clouds in there. Looking for temperatures in the 70s, in some cases upper 70s, like around Juneau. I think they're looking for a high of 77 tomorrow, and lower 70s again over the lower to mid 70s eastern interior. A little bit more sunshine. That'll trigger some scattered shower activity, and any one of which might develop into an isolated thunderstorm. But periods of rain continue in the north and out west, to a lesser extent to showers over the Kuskokwim Delta, Bristol Bay, Alaska Peninsula. And then the next system on Saturday kind of regenerates there, and low pressure western Arctic coast, and another pretty good shot of rain slides northeastward. So looking for moderate to heavy amounts of rain Friday night into Saturday. Might result, with all the rainfall that's already fallen, that could result in some pretty high river and stream levels there. No warnings or watches out at this point in time, but that might change depending on just how heavy the rainfall amounts are. With that next surge of moisture coming in, you can see the low drop southward into the western Aleutians, bringing rain and fog and drizzle out to that area, and probably some small craft advisory level winds as well. But wind's not a problem at all for Adak and Atka or the eastern Aleutians. A little breezy for the Fox Island, especially on Alaska Island, due to that low trying to approach but staying to the south there. But getting close enough to tighten the gradient up a little. Troughs moving northeastward over on the west side of the ridge axis that extends up to Prince William Sound, the Kenai Peninsula. So the Alaska Peninsula, light rain, fog, and drizzle into Bristol Bay. Chance of showers increase Kodiak Island throughout the day, but mostly sunny. Highs back possibly into the lower 80s for areas like Eagle, and otherwise into the mid to upper 70s for the eastern interior, Copper River Basin area. And Panhandle weak trough, remnants of a trough that swings in, will bring a few scattered showers and a few more clouds and a little cooler temperatures, but still areas will reach into the lower 70s anyway, but it'll be a little cooler than what you'll see on Friday there for the southeast coast, but not too bad overall. And taking a look at temperatures, the forecast lows tonight, lower to mid 50s there in the Tanana Valley, and lower 50s out towards Norton Bay and the Lotto Hills there, with then you get in out toward the coastline, mid to upper 40s, mid 40s St. Lawrence Island, and in the 40s, 40 to 50 for the Arctic coast and North Slope, upper 40s for the Pribilos, 45 to 50 for the Aleutians, the exception lower 50s for Unalaska, lower 50s Alaska Peninsula, Bristol Bay, Kodiak Island, and in the 50s, some cases upper 50s there for the Panhandle, upper 40s Copper River Basin, upper 40s lower 50s South Central Alaska, Prince William Sound, and the Kenai Peninsula. And then the highs tomorrow, lower to mid 70s Eagle down to Northway and Tok, lower 70s in the greater Fairbanks area, Yukon Flats, and there's a well into the 70s for all of the Panhandle, with more sunshine than 77 at Juneau, and 65 call it for Yakutat. Upper 50s, lower 60s, South Central Alaska, Kodiak Island, near 70 Copper River Basin, 50s and 60s out west, up upper 40s, St. Lawrence Island, and the western Seward Peninsula area to the Point Hope, Cape Lisburne area. Otherwise, 50 to 55 Central Arctic coast, and then possibly mid 60s there on the eastern Beaufort Sea coast. A little bit offshore flow there. Could push into the mid 60s in some areas, and on Alaska again jumping above 60 degrees, about 61, same as Kodiak Island, otherwise mostly in the 50s out that way. Followed by lows, upper 40s and lower 50s for the Aleutians and the Pribilos, mid 50s for the Alaska Peninsula into Bristol Bay, lower 50s Kodiak Island, 50 to 55 covers it pretty well, South Central Alaska, as well as much of the southwest interior, near 50 out toward the coast, lower 40s St. Lawrence Island to the Seward Peninsula, and in the 40s for the Arctic coast and North Slope area, to near 50 for the Kobuk, Koyukuk Valley, lower 50s in the interior, lower 50s also for the South Central Alaska area, and 55 to 60 for the lows of the Panhandle. And again, the next day on Saturday, not too bad, a little cooler in some areas, but still pushing upper 70s around Juneau, and near 80 for Eagle, upper 70s North Wyandotte, mid 70s for Fairbanks, and lower 60s South Central Alaska, 40s and 50s just about everywhere else, and upper 50s for the Central Aleutians, lower 60s for the Alaska Peninsula.
And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Moving on to aviation flying graphics. For Friday morning, we've got some marginal VFR, mostly the central Arctic coast, VFR for the North Slope, IFR southern slopes of the Brooks Range, IFR most of the west coast there, southern Seward Peninsula, all the way down to near Dillingham, and then IFR for all of the Aleutians, marginal for Chimney-on-Attu, and Fognac Island VFR into southern Cook Inlet, Kamishak, Kachemak Bay, actually on up to almost northern Cook Inlet, and marginal VFR to the Alaska Range. Then we've got marginal for Kodiak Island and Panhandle, marginal VFR to start there, mainly Prince of Wales Island and into Dixon Entrance, with IFR just barely getting to Cape St. Elias. And for the afternoon, looking like this, still IFR, southwest interior along the southwest coast up to a lesser extent now for Norton Sound and Seward Peninsula, basically marginal. Some lingering IFR, southern slopes of the central eastern Brooks Range, North Slope, VFR, Arctic coast, marginal VFR, Panhandle, VFR except possible IFR on the Prince of Wales Island south coast there, and IFR south coast of the Alaska Peninsula, solid IFR southern Bering Sea and all of the Aleutians, Pribilofs included, and moving on to Saturday morning, nothing but IFR out over the Bering Sea and into the west coast and part of the southwest interior. IFR for the Aleutians, Alaska Peninsula, and looks like some IFR, western Cook Inlet up to the eastern slopes of the western Alaska Range, all the way up to about the south side of Windy Pass, and southern slopes of the Brooks Range, northern Kobuk, Koyukuk Valley, over toward the Noatak Valley, all IFR, and the zone of IFR, Kenai Peninsula coast, maybe into Resurrection Bay, western Prince William Sound, and the southern Panhandle, so conditions over the southern southeast coast beginning to deteriorate by Saturday morning. And for the afternoon, marginal VFR now all the way up to Juneau and Elfin Cove, extending Yakutat though in the VFR zone there, Copper Basin, eastern interior areas, and still a good portion of the North Slope, maybe the eastern Arctic coast. But IFR, Bering Sea, Aleutians, Alaska Peninsula, and the western Cook Inlet area up to the Alaska Range, Kuskokwim Valley, and much of the central and lower Yukon River Valley areas, marginal, as well as the northwest interior. And for passes, Anatuvik, marginal VFR. For the pass, VFR to the north, IFR to the south. Same pattern for Adigan, VFR northern entrance into the North Slope, and IFR in the southern approach. And Lake Clark and Merrill, mostly marginal throughout the day on Friday. Same forecast for rainy, occasionally marginal, windy, marginal VFR. Lowest conditions, southern entrance, out the north side though, into the valley, VFR. Isabel, marginal VFR to start becoming VFR probably by late morning and definitely by the afternoon. Mentasta VFR the entire day. Tanita, just upward trend. Lowest conditions will be found in the morning and VFR in the later part of the afternoon. And for Portage, kind of a marginal day there on either entrance. And for Chilkoot and White, nothing but VFR. For the freezing levels, cold air aloft there, cold pool over the Russian Far East, and that extending a little farther south into the northwest Bering Sea, but not too much. You can see 12,000 feet still north of the Pribilofs, 14,000 feet western Aleutians, 8 to 10,000 feet over the interior. And for icing, southwest flow still carrying some surges of moisture northeastward in that southwest flow to the east of the cold upper low over the Russian Far East, and but not to the extent that it has been. So icing threats pretty limited there along the southwest coast, Kodiak Island area. And for the jet stream, there's that upper low just off the coast there, northwest Bering. Winds not quite as strong as they were, anywhere up to 95 knots. Westerlies into the central Bering Sea, west-southwest 85 to 95 knots in the northern interior. And for 9,000 feet southwest, 40 to 55 knots, strongest over the Bering Sea. 3,000 feet Southwest flow, western central interior, eastern Bering Sea, anywhere from 20 to 40 knots, strongest near the Pribilofs there. And then again, 40 knot winds a little farther to the west, 35 knots across the Alaska Peninsula, turbulence. Occasional moderate chop lee side of the Alaska Peninsula, especially for small aircraft, Kuskokwim Delta, Kuskokwim Mountains, and maybe the northwest Arctic coast. After the break, I'll be back with the marine forecasts.
Greetings, Sky Spires. Hopefully you've been watching Saturn and Jupiter over the last week. They are big and bright and in the southeastern sky, and Saturn is at opposition, meaning it's closest in its orbit and brightest from our perspective. There's so much to see. But since we're looking, why not turn up your sky experience a bit with binoculars? Other than planets, one of my favorite objects to spot in the sky with binoculars is M45, the Pleiades. Head outside around 4 a.m. and face east to spy the Seven Sisters. With the naked eye, you can see maybe 5 of them, but with binoculars, especially on a tripod, they look a bit like a dipper, but don't mix them up with the Little Dipper. That's an asterism in Ursa Minor. Try finding Aldebaran in Taurus, directly below M45. It's in the Hyades cluster, another star cluster just below the Pleiades. With binoculars, you can see so much more while you keep looking up.
We're at Vandenberg Air Force Base. We're about 20 minutes before the launch of IceSat-2. You might see the white light off in the distance. That's the Delta II rocket.
It kind of feels like an idea that was always going to just stay an idea. But no, it's real. It's sitting on top of the rocket.
You know, and for me, it's kind of surreal. Like you say, it's been 10 years, and it's hard to believe. It's like, we're really here? This is really about to happen? It's totally cool.
This is Dr. Tom Newman. Over the years, his work has taken him to some pretty remote areas to study changes in the ice regions of our planet. And his research, among many others, has defined the goals of the new NASA satellite, the Ice, Cloud, and Land Elevation Satellite 2, or ICESat-2.
And we have ignition. And
the story of IceSat-2 really begins with IceSat-1. IceSat told us all kinds of cool things about the ice sheet and about sea ice that we didn't really know to ask. That data allowed us to measure elevation change of ice sheets in a way that we hadn't been able to before, and showed that all the action on the ice sheets, the places that were really changing quickly, were around the edges. So when we were thinking about what could we do better next time, we knew that was one key component.
In addition to the edges of the ice sheets, IceSat-2 needed to measure a dimension of sea ice that remained elusive: its thickness. To figure out how thick sea ice is, you can measure the height of ice sticking out of the ocean, or freeboard, and compare it to the height of water between the sea ice flows, called leads.
The problem is, sea ice is really dynamic, and those cracks open and close various places in the ice pack throughout the day, throughout the year, and what we need to do is have measurements of the ocean whenever it's available, wherever it occurs in the sea ice pack.
To solve that problem, IceSat-2 was designed with a fast pulsing laser instrument to take precise, near-continuous measurements across its 3 pairs of beams. For 10 years, everything about the mission was designed to measure rapid changes in the most rapidly changing part of the cryosphere. But it has to get into space first.
But it's a huge transition going from the ground to in space. We've spent better part of 10 years, thousands of people have been involved, and actually seeing the rocket there on the pad with all of that work kind of all put together in one place, it's pretty amazing. And then getting up in the middle of the night to go watch the actual launch, it's sort of surreal in a way, because you've put so much time into it for so long, and actually seeing it over there is like, whoa, you know, it's a big deal.
4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Lift off. 1.
there it went. That was Atlas. Last Delta 2, heading on out. So Atlas has been turned on over the course of the first few weeks of the mission, really culminating for us with a laser. So this is our first look at sea ice data from ISAT-2, and it looks fantastic. The signal levels look great. We've got plenty of photons there. We're capturing ridges. We can clearly see the ocean. All sorts of cool stuff in there, and this is just our first data. It's only going to get better from here on out.
The data from ISAT-2 is well on its way into digging deeper into the unknown dimensions of sea ice sheets, and glaciers. It will shed light on changes in sea level and global weather patterns, and once again find new things about ice we didn't know to ask.
So my heart is definitely racing. I don't know about anyone else's. This is the stuff nerds dream of.
Slight chance the flight may see ISAT-2 in their center windscreen. 10 seconds. 9, 8, 7, 6, that's gonna 5, 4, 3, 2.
And now, marine weather around Alaska.
Welcome back. Today's sea ice analysis. Still slowly opening up there in the southern Chukchi Sea. Still a little bit of ice there, mostly off the Russian Far East coastline. And the forecast through Monday is for a retreat to the north of 20 to 30 nautical miles. Again, that's through Monday. And for the Beaufort Sea coast on the east side, expected to slowly retreat and thin over the next 4 or 5 days without much net movement in the overall ice. So moving on to coastal water forecasts. Excuse me. We've got light winds, light variable winds over the inside waters and over the south coast, 5 to 10 knots south coast there of the Panhandle, 3 to 4 foot seas. West or north-northwesterly breezes 10 to 15 knots on the north coast, seas 3 to 4 feet. And for the outlook on Sunday, we've got let's go back. There we are. Or I'm sorry, Saturday. Yeah, let's go to Saturday there. Okay, south coast, south winds at 10 knots. Now the light variable winds on the north coast, 5 to 10 knots, seas 3 feet. Lynn Canal, northerlies at 15 knots. And central southern inside waters, or call it variable at 5 for Stevens Passage, Clarence Strait southeast at 10, and slight seas. Now for Prince William Sound and the North Gulf Coast, light variable winds at 10 knots, seas 2 to 3 feet there, and south 15 knots for the Barren Islands, Kamishak Bay, southern Cook Inlet, southerly winds at 20 knots with 4 to 6 foot seas, north of the Forelands, southwest breeze at 15 knots. And moving on to Saturday, Cook Inlet, south of the Forelands, south at 10, northern Cook Inlet, west at 10, seas 2 to 3 feet. Kamishak Bay, east winds 15 knots, seas 4 feet. Southeast 15 knot winds for the Barren Islands. Western North Gulf Coast and Prince William Sound, winds variable 10 knots, 2 to 3 foot seas. Eastern North Gulf Coast, around Middleton Island, winds will be out of the west at 15 knots. For Friday, Kodiak Island, southwesterlies, 15 to 20 knots, 3 to 6 foot seas. From Sitkinak all the way to Cape Sarachev, 20 knot winds from the south, 5 to 6 foot seas. Small craft advisories, though, on the Bering Sea side of the Alaska Peninsula, southeast 25 knots. Bristol Bay, southerlies at 20 knots. And then for Saturday, we've got small craft advisories for the Alaska Peninsula, southerly winds, 25 knots, 4 to 5 foot seas. Bristol Bay, southeast 25, good for small craft advisories there as well, but the seas don't really respond too much, still at about 3 feet. And from Castle Cape to Sitkinak, 25 knot winds from the south. Kodiak Island, though, southerlies at 15 knots, 3 to 4 foot seas. Fox Islands, starting out with Unalaska Island, southeast 20 knots. Udmak Island, southeast at 15 knots. Adak and Atka, east-southeast 15 to 20 knots. Northeast 15 for Amchitka Island. Small craft advisories from Kiska to Shimia, where winds will be south at 25 knots. And for Saturday, Shimia to Kiska, northwesterlies at 20 knots. Amchitka Island, south winds 20 knots. Adak and Atka, south winds 15 knots, 4 to 5 foot seas. Udmak Island, southeast 15 to 20 knots. Unalaska Island, southeast 20 to 25 knots with seas running 5 to 7 feet. And for the southwest coast, South winds 15 to 20 knots, 15 knot southerlies for the Pribilof, south 20 knots for St. Matthew Island, south 15 St. Lawrence Island, south 10 Norton Sound. 25 knot winds, small craft advisories for Norton Sound on Saturday for south at, again, 25 knots. Small craft advisories also for the southwest coast. Yukon Delta Coast, southeast 25, 30 knots from the south for the Kuskokwim Delta Coast. Pribilof, small craft advisories as well, south 25 knots with seas at 6 feet. Up along the eastern Beaufort Sea coast, winds predominantly southwest at 15 knots. Not too bad in the sea heights there with that wind direction, 1 to 2 feet. South 10 knots with slight seas for the central coast. West side about 15 knots from Cape Beaufort to Wales. The winds will be south at 20 knots. And for Saturday, the Arctic coast, east winds 20 knots the entire stretch, 1 to 5 foot seas. Northerlies 15 to 20 knots from Cape Beaufort to Wales. And for tonight, rain continues over the western interior, tapering off by the time you get to the central interior, with dry conditions on the east side, variable clouds after some lingering evening showers of the Panhandle. And then for tomorrow, wet weather continues in the north and northwest there, and mostly cloudy and kind of coolish and showery here for the southern Alaska. North Gulf Coast, it'll dry, and maybe some sunshine for the Panhandle, otherwise mostly cloudy. And for Saturday, another surge of rain, moderate to heavy, comes into the northwest part of the state and extends down toward the Pribilof.
These forecasts are for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating.